And I'm hoping through my work, whether it's an individual or through families or mother-daughter, we connect to nature and feel about nature through the stories I tell.
Paralleling nature and human nature, I've never heard even those those words put together.
It all started with the turtles, though. I was a turtle lady, and I saw people from everywhere, Greg, asking me questions, and I saw in their eyes that they cared.
Right.
So when I hear negativism, I say, no, 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 I'm getting too many letters. People are donating money after reading my books.
Right.
I thought if I could tell a story and set a backdrop against some species, like sweetgrass was against, as a plantation family losing their home. But you learned about the sweetgrass and the loss of land and the plantations while you read the story. And hopefully a love of place. And that's just what Southern writing is all about.
Oh, yeah. Those are great words. Think back to your first one, of course, pinning it there with Zachary on the way, lying in bed, and obviously thinking about that. You know, we think about those aspects of comparing first to most recent. A dozen books later, Turtle Summer, obviously coming out. There's some of the differences. Obviously, this is for children.
For children.
But for some of the differences in your writing, let's say to your 11th book, what are some of the stark differences, if there are any, from first to 11th?
There definitely are. It's a very good question. There are what I call bridge books. My first 5 or 6 books were relationship novels about the book club, women in book clubs. About the 4 Seasons was about sisters and friends. It wasn't until I moved full-time here to the east, to the Isle of Palms, where I could work with turtles, that I made a different commitment. The Beach House was a bridge book. That was my commitment to nature.
Right.
I think this next book, Time is a River, comes out.
Time is a River.
That's my new book.
Yeah, wow.
Isn't that a great title? I really love it.
Time is a River.
Time is a River.
I'll lock that up. No, I'm kidding. That's a great
It's my first book for pocketbooks. That's a bridge book because it's a lot more internal angst and a woman coming to terms with herself as opposed to a woman dealing with other people in her family.
Right.
So that's a bit more of a bridge book. And the children's book was certainly a bridge book. My voice remains the same. But perhaps
when you say that, for a viewer who may not understand that my voice remains the same, what does that mean exactly? Yeah.
That's that quality in a book when you open it up and you read a few passages and you know who the author is. You know, I think John Grisham has a voice. Carl Hiaasen has a distinct, you can read his words and you laugh and you know. I hope that when people open my books, they know it's me. No matter what topic I cover. They know my sensitivities, my message perhaps, what I care about, what I stand for. It's not just a story. Part of what I have to say comes through the characters, through the metaphors, through the plot, through the setting. Very much the setting. And that's what I call the soul of the story. I'm talking about that at various presentations. What is it that you want to say in the novel that makes your book unique? So I do have messages. Joseph Campbell, the great Joseph Campbell, once said that writers and artists are the shamans of today. And I think that's true. We put our ear to the ground and we listen to what's coming, to the drum beats, and it's our job to bring that message to our readers.
And oftentimes even looking for small things and turning those in a way that folks may look at them in a different way.
It's always the small details.
Really?
Isn't it?
Small
that
detail.
tell. And so I hope my stories bring nature, bring the perils of and the joys of their everyday life.
Have you followed any folks that picked up your first couple of books that have gotten excited and maybe begun penning their own? And
oh, you mean as authors?
Yes, I mean that you helped spurn some authors there.
I've mentored every year for the high school students, and this young girl I've just met, Mackenzie,
the 9th grader, absolutely was out. Mackenzie was fantastic.
Yes, who's a young author.
Yeah,
and you like
doing
to encourage
4 books,
them.
I think she said.
I have to say, I was not doing 4 books at her age. Actually, I was sort of shy, so I encourage girls like Mackenzie to start writing and show people, because I used to write and hide it under my mattress. I didn't show people. I think that's probably why I went into nonfiction first. There's a certain kind of a hubris to say I've got something to say and everyone should read it.
Yeah.
And I love it when young girls and boys start young, and they have so much to say. I'm impressed.
We talked about Rhonda Rich briefly, who was the featured speaker last Thursday here at the Chamber. And of course, she came out with 2 books that actually came out the exact same day, a fiction and a nonfiction.
Really?
2 books that were published and released the exact same day. I think Mary and Rhonda made a trip to 20-some southern cities to highlight these
That's
2
amazing.
books. 2 books. I think it's a wonderful kind.
I have to say, though, when Turtle Summer came out, it was a separate publisher. It came out at the same time as Swimming Lessons. And for me, the fun part was I thought maybe I'd sell some children's book and a lot of novels.
Right.
But I would come, say, to Myrtle Beach, and I would sell... A woman would buy the novel.
Yeah.
Then she'd buy 5 Turtle Summers, one for every grandchild.
No, yeah.
And I thought that would caught me by surprise because they just were companions as I did the book signing. So I'm sure Rhonda's probably finding that too.
Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes, Mary Alice. Do you see more children's books coming out?
Absolutely.
Really? What is it about doing a children's book that was exciting?
I always wanted to speak to children. Again, the message, for example, with Turtles that I tell adults, now I can also tell children. And I work with Barbara Bergwerf, who is the photographer for the aquarium and did all the photographs for this. Children know the difference between illustrations and photographs, and they really like the photographs because it's real. So if I do a book on butterflies for adults, I will parallel it with a book for children. So I see many books coming in the future. Manatees. I'm very curious about those big walrus-like creatures that we're seeing more and more of in South Carolina. And I think I really do have a message to give to children as much as adults, and hopefully good stories.
Absolutely. You know, so oftentimes I think folks wonder, what is it, why are they doing it, what is spurning them to do this? We had a guest on the show 2 or 3 years ago who talked about himself not as an author, but as a writer. He said, I'm in it for money. It's simple. I'm in it for money. And he had penned hundreds of millions of books. Mickey Spillane, who's a very famous, he said, I'm not an author. I'm a writer. I'm in it for, and I'll make it clear. And so he made it very clear what his goal was. Of course, it was
a very good one, too.
And a very good one, a very good writer. But you think, folks oftentimes wonder, it's not all about money. Clearly you love doing it. You could have stopped after a couple and said, you know, I've done enough. I've made enough, or otherwise. What is it for you, Mary Alice?
I could not stop writing. I am a storyteller. Same thing. Why, when I was a little girl, did I write stories for my brothers and sisters? It's the same thing. I'm still writing stories for euphemistically my brothers and sisters. And I have so many stories I want to tell. And whether or not I get paid for it or not, I'll continue to write.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
It's a passion. It's my love, and I feel very, very fortunate that I am being read.
These 12, now 13 books have come out over, I mean, you're a very young woman, over that.
Thank you.
What course of years? Do you mind me asking?
Sure. Let's see. Well, Zachary's 21.
Right, yeah.
So that first book was published when he was about 4 or 5, so I guess that makes about 15, 16 years.
Yeah, so that's about one every 14 or 15 months.
Yes.
So there's not much time to...
I'm getting older. I think I'd like a little more time. I would like more time, but it's part of me. It's just I just get antsy when I'm not writing.
Right. Have you ever written with anyone else?
I haven't yet. I might someday. Except for the children's book, Turtle Summer. I worked with Barbara. Right. But it was my story. The only reason I might consider it in the future is if I have a character that I want to expand, perhaps a man.
Right.
But I write very intensely and very fast. So
very intensely? Right, yeah.
And very fast. I call it projectile writing. So I don't know if anyone could tolerate, or I can tolerate anyone else.
Your kids and husband is about enough. And of course, 9 brothers and sisters. That's a pretty big deal, obviously.
Honestly, as long as people read them, I will continue to write.
Yeah. How about favorite writers for you, or novelists or authors? Any that stick out in your mind?
Yes, well, Pat Conroy is an icon. He's a god. And I feel this very same way about Ann Rivers Siddons.
Really?
And the local authors, all that we just mentioned, the Charleston Renaissance Group, they're all wonderful voices coming out of our area, and I read them all.
And you think folks who are writing from the South, from the Low Country, for instance, can project, they clearly can, you mentioned Conroy and Rivers, they can project to an audience much greater than just the South or the Southeast. You found folks very interested in your pieces from all over.
You know why that is? Because we're hitting universals. When you talk about any issue, if you'd hit, a person in Ohio can understand loss of a home because we all lose grandma's house at one point. So those are the universals, loving grass, loving turtles, mother-daughter stories. That's everyone has a mother. So those are the universals. I think the South has a history and a continuum that perhaps in New York and Ohio and elsewhere, as we become more homogenized, they're looking towards Southern stories for touchstones, because it's still very alive in the South.
And you've been in the South how long, Mary Alice?
Well, I was a little girl in the South, and then went back out to the Midwest, and moved back when I first got married 35 years ago.
Okay, so more than half your life has clearly been in the South.
But my husband is from New York originally, and when we went back there, when we first got married, we went back there for a while and then came back. It's back and forth with him. But we always came to the Isle of Palms. So when we could move there full time, it was a real treat. That's
great. I'm sorry we've run out of time. Enjoyed being with you this morning.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Mary Alice Monroe coming up next. You know, thinking about it, I bet there are some other bilingual authors down in the Low Country, but I bet that second language is not Japanese. I'm sure it's not Japanese. Wasn't that great hearing to talk about birthing a baby and a book at the same time, birthing a baby and a book, and hearing to talk about that paralleling nature and human nature. How exciting. Those are special words. You can learn more about Mary Alice at MaryAliceMonroe.com. MaryAliceMonroe.com. Of course, her books, Turtle Summer and Swimming Lessons, out in stores now. Time is a River. Just hearing it coming out of her mouth. Time is a River will be out in June of 2008. Look for it in area stores. Go online to MaryAliceMonroe.com.